What's up, average dad fans? Welcome back to another video, and I'm trying something different. I'm doing what MKBHD does on his autofocus. Does anybody know why MKBHD emerges from bushes every time he introduces an autofocus video? Well, I don't know either, but I'm going to try it because he gets a boatload of subscribers and views, so there we go. Now, today's video is part 2 of the OPPO N5 versus the Vivo X Fold 5, and today is all about the cameras. Each phone has 5 cameras and we're going to test them all, and I'm going to give you my opinion on which I prefer. Let's go! And before we get started, a shout out to everyone that gave some feedback on yesterday's Samsung video, my first time using the Sony a6700, and yeah, I agreed, stabilization could have been better. So for this video I have enabled active shot or steady shot, and I've changed it from 24p to 60 frames per second just to see how that looks as well. You can let me know again in the comments, I'm always open to feedback. But overwhelmingly, I would say that the audio sounded great. So really happy with the Sony M1 mic, whatever the hell they call it. It's really good. But today's all about the OPPO and the Vivo. And camera wise, yes, you may be counting on your fingers. Hold on, Mike said 5. Yes, every foldable phone, large format foldable phone, has 5 cameras. 3 on the rear and 2 selfies. The outer selfie camera is the one you're probably going to use most. I could count on like one hand how many times I've used the inner selfie camera. Yes, it's meant for like video calls, propping up your phone on a stand. I've just never used it like that because I've got webcams and other stuff to do that, but they're there. Now, in terms of the specifications on both of these, very different approaches. Vivo has 2 20 megapixel sensors at around about 1/2 inch, like half-inch sensors, 1/2.0, so about half-inch sensors for their selfie cameras, which is actually not too bad. The disappointing thing about the selfie cameras on the Vivo though is they're capped at 1080p. Yeah, very disappointing, and you can't change the frame rate, so you're basically stuck at 1080p 30 on both selfie cameras if you're looking at video record. Now the OPPO on the other hand has 8 megapixel sensors. Yes, only 8 megapixels on both selfies. However, the OPPO does allow 4K 30 frames per second. I can't even begin to understand why Vivo wouldn't just enable 4K out of the box, because it's certainly capable of it. On the X Fold 3 Pro we had the same situation, but within about 4 weeks of launch they pushed a firmware update which enabled 4K. So I fully expect this to happen on the Vivo X Fold 5. Just a really confusing decision not to have it out the box. And to be honest, when it comes to selfies on both cameras, why would you use the inferior selfie cameras? Because the other key benefit of a foldable phone for all you selfie lovers is just use the cover screen as your display, your monitor, and use the rear cameras to take selfies in all their 50 megapixel glory. So yeah, there's a little tip for you selfie fans, of which I am not one. I hate taking selfies. It's only because I make content that I actually have to record myself. So here's some examples of the selfie photos and videos taken on both phones. You can decide which you prefer, but caveat, just use the rear cameras for selfies. This is the 1080p selfie footage on the Vivo X Fold 5. You can let me know how the microphones sound. Now we are in the woods, sun is getting through as you can see there. How's it dealing with exposure? Monitor looks good. And this is the OPPO N5 with 4K 30 frames per second video recording. Again, exact same position in the woods with sunlight getting through at certain points. Here we go. How's that? How's the exposure and how's the microphones built into each of the devices? And now we get to the main events. The triple camera setups on the rear of both of these devices. Again, slightly different approaches, but as a blanket statement, the Vivo X Fold 5 simply has better cameras, better lenses, better aperture, better sensors. Everything you could want in a camera is upgraded from the N5 to the X Fold 5. But that doesn't mean that the X Fold 5 is always going to be better in every situation. You'll be able to tell from yourself from examples later on in the video. Specs wise, let's start with the Vivo. The Vivo is a triple 50 megapixel setup. 3x optical zoom on the periscope, which is a 1/1.95 inch sensor. 50 megapixels on the main wide camera, which is a 1/1.56 inch sensor. Not the biggest sensor on any foldable, but to be honest, pretty close to it. As we all know, camera setups on foldables are getting better, but they're not quite to their candy bar sisters yet. And then the final lens, probably the least used lens of the three, is the ultra wide. And on the Vivo, it's 50 megapixels. It's 119 degrees field of view. It is a decent enough sensor size on the ultra wide, but it's not the exact same sensor like on the Vivo X200 Ultra, where they had that 1/1.1 inch sensor on the main and the ultra wide. The ultra wide on the X Fold 5 is slightly lesser than the main lens on that phone. And then the OPPO. Now all of these specs are coming from the top of my head. I hope I'm getting them correct. Triple camera setup on the rear, 50 megapixel main, 50 megapixel 3x optical periscope, then an 8 megapixel ultra wide. Now I did say already that the ultra wide is the least used sensor, but OPPO, give us something to use. 8 megapixels, it's like a 1/4 inch sensor. It's essentially as bad as the selfie cameras, the selfie sensors on the OPPO. So the ultra wide they've just not put any care into, but with 116 degree field of view and the shots that you will see soon, they're not bad shots, it's just, yeah, it's not going to be your go-to lens, that's for sure. The 3x periscope zoom lens is really, really good, and until the Vivo X Fold 5 came out, it was up there with one of my favourites, but the Vivo's is better. And in the main lens, 1/2 inch sensor, so it's like a 1/2 inch sensor, much smaller than the Vivo's. The aperture is very similar, but if you're letting in more light and your sensor size is smaller, doesn't really equal out. The Vivo lets in just as much light, but the sensor size is bigger, so you're capturing more information. Now, I'm going to give you some photo samples and then we'll talk about video recording. Please keep in mind, this is a really nice day for like 2 days in a row in Scotland, which is almost unheard of. So it's not pushing these cameras to their limits by any means. And folks, it doesn't get dark here in Scotland till about 11 o'clock at night, and I am giving it big Zs by then. So there's no nighttime photography, but rest assured, the bigger sensor size and the slightly bigger aperture on the Vivo will lead to better nighttime shots. Here's some examples. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer.
me get over it. Somebody help me. Somebody help me get over it. Somebody help me, yeah. Somebody help me get over it. Somebody help me, yeah.
Now we've moved into the woods a bit, so that'll test the A6700 slightly more with the change of light. We have to talk about video recording. Both phones have 4K 60 frames per second. However, the Vivo will allow you to go to 8K 30 frames per second. I'm not an 8K user, but I am a big fan of 4K 60, and I do like the option of 4K 120. Something the candy bar sisters of these phones, the OPPO X8 Ultra, the Vivo X200 Ultra, give you the option of. Now again, it's not often I'll use 120 frames per second, but if you're forking out over £1,000 on a phone, kind of like to be involved. And particularly on the OPPO with the latest Elite chip, there is literally no reason why they couldn't enable 8K or 4K 120 on their camera. Unlike on my APS-C camera right now, the Sony, you don't have to worry about any settings when it comes to stabilization or ISO or exposure. Your smartphone's post-processing just takes care of all of that stuff. If you are a pro level photographer and you want a pro level camera phone, it hurts me to say this, but a foldable phone just isn't the one for you yet. Because of the technology advancing like daily nowadays, I see no reason why we can't have a 1-inch wide sensor, a 200 megapixel near 1-inch sensor for the periscope lens inside a foldable phone. It's doable. And as I've mentioned before, phone manufacturers are prioritising the thinnest phones over the best specifications. Raise your hand in the comments if you would rather the camera system of the X200 Ultra on a 9.9mm folded X Fold 5 or the camera system of the X Fold 5 on a 9.1mm folded X Fold 5. I can almost guarantee that for the sake of less than a millimetre, we would all rather the X200 Ultra cameras on a foldable. And that goes for the OPPO. Would you rather the X8 Ultra camera setup? Of course you would. So manufacturers are doing amazing things with foldable phones, but they don't have to be that thin. Now, if you haven't already checked out part 1 of this video, I do talk about all of the hardware, the speakers, the chipset, all that good stuff. So if any of your questions are about hardware, please watch part 1. I'll put a card up here and I'll link it down in the description. And for all the questions about software or Apple integration on the X Fold 5, by the way, there's Apple integration on the OPPO as well, so this will be an interesting comparison. That's part 3. Software, that'll come out at the weekend, so in about 3 or 4 days more than likely. Hopefully you've enjoyed this, hopefully you've enjoyed the examples. I did promise that I would give my verdict, and my verdict is pretty clear. The Vivo X Fold 5 is a better camera phone than the OPPO N5. But both will get you through the day, no issues. You can take them for holiday snaps, you can take them for nighttime shots, you can take them in almost any photography situation. But if you are a professional photographer and you rely on your smartphone for photos and videos, you have to go for a candy bar phone. there are at least 5, maybe even 10 candy bar phones for cameras that are way above both of these foldable phones. So hopefully you've enjoyed this part 2 and you've had enough examples. Let me know in the comments what you think of each of the phones. I am impressed, I do love them, and as an overall form factor with hardware and cameras, my choice is the Vivo X Fold 5. And for those that have been living under a rock, there will be a global version of the Vivo X Fold 5 coming in 2 weeks. Yes, you heard me. In 2 weeks we will have a global X Fold 5. If you haven't already, please smash like, hit subscribe, get me to 75,000 subscribers this year. And until next time,